So that's why it actually works. So now that we've included ball, we can create an object. For instance, we'll just create a default object of ball. You can think of when you're creating a class or creating an object of the class, you can think of it as your own type. So here's our type. It's called ball, and we'll just call it B. So now we have a ball object called B initialized with a default constructor. So what we can do here is we can print out the initial radius of the ball, which happens to be get radius. Great. So there's our initial radius of the ball when we run the program, which should be 1. And we can also we can change it, set radius. We can set it to 10. Now, our new radius of B should be 10. So as you can see, this will actually work. But let's think of it a step further. What happens if we have a second object called B2? The comma allows us to declare multiple objects of one type, if anybody is unfamiliar with that. So if we have B2, this will all still work the same, and the initial radius of B2 should now be 1. Excuse me. Notice that these objects are completely independent of each other. This radius is very different than this radius. We can set this radius to 20, and we can show B/B2. So really what will happen here is we will have something that looks like 10/20 if all is correct. So we have two completely independent objects of each other. Now, what we should do is look at an alternate constructor type. And in order to do this, you come back here, and you see ball is our default constructor. However, we can have a constructor that takes the radius right away. So there's our constructor. Either one can be used. It will use whatever constructor has whatever matching parameter type, and it will create an object depending on our declaration of this, if we provide it some integer value. So to do that, we'll come back here. We will say ball for our constructor, integer rad, and radius just simply equals rad. We just set the radius instantly to whatever we decide to initialize it to. So in order to do this in main.cpp, we'll create one more object. We'll call it B3, and we will just give it a radius. We'll give it radius of 2. So now, looking down here, we can print out the radius of B3, which happens to be 2. Again, we could set radius and do other things, and it is a totally independent copy. And you will see that all of this works. So what you can do, you can start making very complicated classes more and more, and these are very important functions to have. I mean, for our case, a radius, they could probably access the member directly. If we wanted them to say b3.radius equals some value, that would be okay for our current purpose. But later, when you have algorithms and things that are dependent on variables being set in a certain manner, that's bad. And you see, because we declared it private, I'm getting an error here. This is invalid. In fact, we couldn't even read the data from it because it is private and we don't have access to it. So I'm going to do that Windows trick again, if you remember from the last tutorial, so my window doesn't close right away. And we're going to compile this and make sure that everything checks out as we planned. And it looks like it may have. Let's take a look. Our initial radius is 1, which is correct. If an object was declared with the default constructor, we said set its radius to 1. Then we set its radius for b to 10. So that is correct. That is new radius of b. Then initial radius of b2 also is 1. This is after we have set everything on b, so to show you that it's truly an independent copy. This b slash b2, there should be a space here. But you can see now, after we set radius of b2 to 20, where it was initially 1, we send it b slash b2 is 10 slash 20. So 10 slash 20 being our new radius, that's correct. And b3. We set b3 initially in the constructor by our alternate constructor. We set its radius to 2, which is exactly what we see here. We did no set on b3, as you can see. So that's the basics of using header files and classes. And if you guys have any sort of questions or further tutorials that you would like me to go through, please feel free to message me, send me a message here on YouTube, or go to microsonic.org and send us something. And good luck with your programming.